Why, hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Everything Entertainment Show podcast. We got a lot to talk about this week. The Switch 2 has apparently been delayed. Michael Keaton talking about Beetlejuice 2. There's a Mandalorian game coming, as well as we're going to be talking about that movie that came out this weekend, and a little bit about what I'm doing this week, and we're going to look to the week ahead. So let's go ahead and get started. As we do every week, we're going to start with the box office report from last weekend. So surprising everybody, Bob Marley, One Love came in at number one with $28.6 million. Now, this is one movie that I didn't get around to. I'm thinking about it. Unfortunately, I got a lot of plans, so it's probably going to be like another week or so before I can get to it, but it looked good, and I've heard some mixed things. Then coming in number two is the biggest disaster in the superhero genre in a long time. Madam Web opened to $15.4 million, which is an absolute... Now, granted, it didn't require a ton to make, but you can't look at that at anything other than a failure. Coming in at number three is Argyle, still sticking in there at $4.9 million. Now, this isn't a huge hit by any means, but it's kind of, people are still going to see it. Migration sticking at number four with 3.8, and The Chosen at 3.6 million. Now, I think Migration, it's still that family film. Wonka fell out of the top five, which is a little bit surprising, but Wonka's also available to stream now, so we'll see that. So moving on, the big report that happened over the weekend, and I just made a TikTok about this and everything, is new reports came out over the weekend that the Switch 2, the long-rumored successor to the Switch console, we knew that it was coming, has reportedly been delayed until 2025. Everything before that we had been hearing was more about that it was going to come later this fall. It was going to be the big holiday release. And in fact, a lot of the stuff I was reading is that the reason why we don't know any of these games that are coming out in the fall is that a lot of developers are waiting until the Switch 2 and the PS5 Pro get announced, because both of those were supposedly coming this fall. But now with the Switch 2, again, reportedly being delayed. And I would believe it, because here's the thing. They're talking quarter one, so it's probably going to come between January and March. I'm going to guess March. March puts it at the 8th year anniversary of the original Switch, and that seemed to be a perfect selling point. It's great, everyone's done with recovering from the Christmas shopping spree, so they have a little bit more expendable income. Also, it hits right as everyone's getting their tax refunds, which is probably going to propel it farther. So that makes sense. But it also sucks because right now, 2024 has been very front-loaded. We've got when we get to what I'm playing and all that, we've got a ton of games coming out in the first 3 months, and then nothing. Now, I am pointing out, we have things that we could talk about, right? There are things coming, and we also have events like Summer Games Fest that I'm sure is going to fill in the calendar. And Nintendo is usually good about filling in their fall calendar later in the year, so I'm sure that they've probably got something for the Switch ready to go. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe something that was going to be like a Switch and a Switch 2, but they're going to go ahead and drop the Switch version this fall. Now, granted, here's the thing about this. Nintendo never talks about stuff until they're ready to. So a lot of these leaks aren't even coming from people saying they're getting it from their sources at Nintendo. A lot of these leaks are saying that the developers they're talking to and their sources in companies that they know that are developing games for the Switch 2 are saying that they're being told not to have this game ready to ship until next spring. So that's kind of where a lot of these are starting. Overall, I think that this is going to be a good thing. Obviously we have a huge 6-month period where everything is coming out, and the fall wasn't anything to sneeze at either. And, January and February has just been a treasure trove of huge games. So many games I had to choose not to get just because I needed to, just focus on other things. And that's not even including the movies and stuff that are coming out. That's just the games. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot with this rumors about the Switch 2. Again, I'm not in a huge rush to get it, but you know how it is. Even when I'm I was just fine with my PS4. We don't need a PS5. But then as the rumors started to heat up, I started getting more and more excited and wringing my fingers and, oh, I need this console. And that's going to be what happens once we finally. The thing that Nintendo's going to, because like last I heard, I thought some of their factories were already beginning to produce them and stuff. And that could be, now that it's going through my head, that could be one of the factors, is that maybe Nintendo's like, hey, let's do an extra 3 months of production on it so that we can make sure we have more stock so that we don't see the massive scalper gate and all that as soon as it launches. But we'll find out about that. But last I heard, I thought they said that their factories and stuff were already beginning like production on them, and I may be wrong about that. Do not quote me on that. I may be wrong about that. But and the problem is that once they're kind of out in the wild, Nintendo's running the risk of somebody snapping a picture of it or something and putting it online, and that's kind of where we're gonna be at for a while. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say about that other than, yeah, this looks like it's going to be a great system. Everything we've heard kind of sounds about in line of what I'd expect the Switch to do. And we all know that Nintendo loves to do their little gimmicks, and I'm thinking that the gimmick here is that it's not going to be much of one. I don't think they're going to do a huge push swap like they did from the Wii U to the Switch. And the Switch really was kind of the culmination of everything they wanted to do with the Wii U, and they fixed all the problems with it. So I'm going to guess that they're just going to keep going that line. Like, we've heard a few things about how like the dock is going to be slightly upgraded and a few other things, but we're going to find out. And I think probably the summer, we were hearing like April, May, but I think because of, if this is true, that it's getting delayed because of this, we're probably looking at like later in the summer hearing about it. If all of that is true, then I think, yeah, we're going to hear more about this because Nintendo's going to have to get out sooner rather than later, because the last thing you want is a bunch of fake rumors going around either. So we will find out, and as soon as Nintendo announces anything, I will be right here to tell you all about it. All right, so coming up next, we got the movie and TV beat, and this is a little bit interesting. So I was reading this article in Hollywood Reporter where Michael Keaton was doing an interview where he was talking about Beetlejuice, the upcoming sequel, 30 years in the making. Obviously, a lot of people really are excited about this, and I was kind of hesitant for it for a while, but the closer we get to Beetlejuice 2, the closer I'm like, you know what? This is gonna be, I think this movie has a chance to be something special. And this interview I read with Michael Keaton makes me more excited. So one of my big problems in movies lately has been CGI sets. Not even so much CGI themselves, but like when it's people just running around a green screen. Now I understand like alien planets, things like that. But Michael Keaton was basically talking to People magazine, and he was saying that he really wanted to make sure that they had that feel from the '89 version. He wanted the movie, he uses the phrase homemade. And I think that makes it, and even Tim Burton has been talking about how they went back to practical sets, practical effects. Like they tried to use as minimal CGI as they can. I'm going to tell you, because we already know what's going to happen, right? The trailer's going to come out, and we're going to see a little bit of CGI touch-up and stuff on people. And you're going to see, they said it was going to be practical. What the hell? No. They're going to probably do some CGI touch-ups and fixing a little bit. But the fact that they're all saying that they're going to use practical effects, practical sets, and this homemade and handmade feel that they're talking about, that gets me very excited. It's, Michael Keaton says, like, if it had to feel handmade, what made it fun was watching somebody in the corner actually holding something up for you to watch everybody in the shrunken headroom and say, there are people under there operating these things, trying to get it right. It's the most exciting thing when you get to do that again after years of standing in front of a giant green screen, pretending somebody else is across the way from you. So that is, that makes me very excited. The fact that, yeah, it's not just going to be a bunch of people in green suits. They're going back to makeup, effects, things like that. So this makes me more excited, and I just cannot wait. I cannot wait for CinemaCon in April, because I don't have sources. I don't have anybody telling me this, but I am like, 88% certain that the first trailer for Beetlejuice 2 is going to drop at CinemaCon. I think Warner Brothers is going to go to town at CinemaCon. So I think there's a solid chance we're going to get the Beetlejuice trailer and we're going to get Joker 2. And probably other things as well. We might get, because it's filming in like the next few weeks. I think CinemaCon might be our first, we won't get a trailer or anything. I think we might get like the first image of David Cornsweet in his Superman costume. Don't quote me on that. Please don't. I think there's a chance there. So Warner Brothers is going to go to town, and let's just look, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Michael Keaton, Jenna Ortega, Willem Dafoe, Monica Bellucci, Justin Theroux. Like, this cast is great. And it's going to be, as somebody who was very much, I'll believe it when I see it, the closer this movie gets, the more excited I find myself becoming. So I am extremely stoked for this, and it comes out September 6th. And as I said, I think in October we're gonna get the first look at the movie. So I'm very excited. And then we know that in the next few months, Jenna Ortega is also going to be reteaming with Tim Burton. Why did my brain blank there? Tim Burton to start working on Wednesday season 2, which is also exciting. So we'll find out. More is coming soon about Beetlejuice. I can almost guarantee that everything we are hearing sounds great. It sounds like what we want out of a Beetlejuice sequel. So let's move on. We're going to go to the gaming beat now. Now, this also broke just 3 days ago on the 16th. So, and at first, anybody who watched the YouTube video, I apologize because I kind of ran off because I read the article wrong. And this is a correction. I thought that this Mandalorian game was confirmed. But it is still just a rumor. It came from Insider Gaming. I'm reading off the IGN article that said that Respawn developers, Respawn Entertainment, the ones who worked on Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi, are doing a first-person Mandalorian game. Now, what makes this excited is, with Apex, you can use the high mobility and things like the jetpack and stuff. And that would really function into thing. Now, there's a couple things. They said that, it's going to be first person, and apparently it's going to take place prior to the series. So before Grogu, which I saw a few people going like, well, The Mandalorian is Grogu. Like, you can't have that show without him. But also, I feel like probably a game like this where you're going to have a bunch of side quests and things like that, it's probably better without having like a non-stop escort quest mechanic to it. So that kind of makes sense. But let's just also talk about it. Like, and we talked about this before with Disney is kind of going to what they know works. It's the same reason why they've been putting so much focus on a new Moana and a new Frozen and a new Toy Story. And instead of doing a new fully original Star Wars movie, they're going back to what they know works. And they know that audiences show up for The Mandalorian. That's why they're making a Mandalorian movie. And now if this is true, we are supposedly going to get a Mandalorian game. And I think just having that character, we don't know if, Pedro Pascal probably won't be doing the voice, but we'll figure all of that out. We don't know anything. We know that Respawn is already working on a third game in the Jedi series. We know that they're still working on Apex. And apparently they do have an untitled Star Wars first-person shooter. So, Disney clearly likes what they're doing over there, and if they just gave them the Mandalorian license, then that's all there is to it. And I think it's going to be exciting. So, let's move on. What did I do this past week? So, it's been a lot of gaming. So, I did get out to see a couple movies. One we are going to talk about once we get to my take, which I'm not going to talk long about that because I just don't like crapping on movies, but we're still going to be talking about it. But a lot of the games I've been playing, I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've been working on the intermission. I am stuck on the Shinra box missions, so I'm going to try to finish that up, hopefully right after I get off this podcast. But also, and I'm not a huge fan of the Persona series, but I was bored and I had my Xbox set to remote play at work one day. And I was on break. I was like, let's give the new one, the Persona 3 Reload, a try. I'm about 15 hours in, and to say that I am really enjoying this. Now, I haven't really jumped too far into the Persona games. Like, I had Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, and this was a game that I played about 5 hours of, and I just turned it off. I went, this game's not for me. Which is weird because I had people like going nuts and like telling me that like this is one of the greatest games ever made, and I was like, I just don't like it. I didn't like it. Now, so that's what originally made me hesitant to jump into this Persona 3, but man, the way that this game, and yeah, it's a lot of talking like Persona 4 was, but the way that it sucks you in and it really makes you feel connected to this characters and connected to this world really impressed me. And I'm going to definitely be playing more of this. Right now, I'm at least going to get through to finish it. But man, I kind of want to like keep playing it even after I finish it and like do a new game plus and like max out all the social links and figure that out. I've also been playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which I'm nearing the end. I'm probably going to have that finished this week. So, and that is, like I said on the YouTube video on Friday, this is definitely like, I think some of the best 2D Mario platforming since Super Mario World. I think that it is incredible. And everything that they've done with the world building and the universe and the way that it kind of rewards failure, as much sense as that doesn't make. And the online features, like I love like being able to see other people's ghosts and all that. I'm having a lot of fun with Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And then finally, on Wednesday, I have been very excited for this because we have been on a Final Fantasy VII kick. We have been on a Final Fantasy VII kick, and this week, Wednesday, I have tickets to see Advent Children in theaters. I love the Advent Children movie. I think it's incredible, but I've never gotten to see it in theaters. So the fact that they're bringing it back, and it's also supposedly got like a bunch of new footage for Rebirth that we've never seen, and like some interviews with Nomura and all that. So I am already stoked. Like I cannot wait for Wednesday night. So that's all that I'm doing this week, and I will let you know when we get to next week how all my progress went. Now, we are going to go on to Madam Web. Oh. You know, and at a certain point, I debated, do I even want to talk about this? Do I even want to review it? Because I understand that making movies is difficult. I understand that there is a challenge associated with it. And so at that point, I'm not going to like just crap all over Madam Web. And I think there are a few things that Madam Web does right. I really do believe that. But there's so much of this movie that they do wrong. There's so much of it. Like, you know, the first thing that I can think of is we know that it's a Spider-Man spinoff. I feel like anybody who knows anything is a Spider-Man spinoff. But this movie, like, tries to hint at stuff that we all know, but it is, you know, the worst thing you can do as a screenwriter is assume your audience is stupid. And there are scenes, and these are minor spoilers, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, just go ahead and fast forward till the last part of this, last section of this podcast. But, you know, there's a thing where Uncle Ben is in this, and he's like talking to Dakota Johnson, and he's like, oh, I met somebody, and she's like, oh, what's her name? And you just see him do this like little smirk, and my brain is like, we know it's Aunt May. We know that it's Aunt May. Why are you hiding this? Like, and then they do it again when we meet Mary Parker, and she's like, oh, I'm saving the baby's name. I'm not telling you who it is. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, why are we doing this? Like, it's not some big plot twist coming. And it's just, it is one of the worst writing examples. Probably not the worst. The worst wide release, mass market writing examples that I could think of. Because yes, you know, and the thing is, with these big budget, like Hollywood movies, I'm going to treat them a little bit more strict than I am like somebody's indie film that they self financed, okay? Because those are people still trying to get their foot in the doors. These are from established studio executives and established actors and established writers who should know better. And that's why I kind of think that and again, I don't want to crap on them because I do think there are things that they did right, which I will go into. Um, and, but I don't want to, also let them slide for things that I just felt was so bad about this. Like, they freaking, so much of this makes no sense. And it's like, another thing that I go to is that, what's even the girl's name? But and this is far from the first time that Hollywood has done this, but like, oh, I'm just shy and innocent and I'm really not that pretty. And then they put Sydney Sweeney into this cast. Like, yes, we need a plain Jane type character. So let's check my notes here. One of the most attractive women in Hollywood. Like, it makes no sense. But that's even like, that's small potatoes compared to just like, why does everybody in this movie sound like they're bored? And why does this movie only 2 hours long and it feels like I spent all day in the movie theater because it's so poorly paced? So I just stick with that. But I want to go into what I liked because I don't want to just crap on it. We're done with talking about how bad it is. And you don't have to take my word for it. It's only at like a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you know that there's actually some interesting things that this movie does. It tries to do some stuff with like, how she handles seeing the future. And I think that some of those stuff with the like pseudo time travel and stuff, I think that those are some interesting ideas. They just never really developed them. And there's a thing toward the ending, again, this is a spoiler. There's a thing toward the ending where she learns that she can kind of like manipulate herself so that she can be in like multiple places at once in the timeline, which that part is really cool. And I think that that's something that she should have figured out like halfway through the movie. And then she could have done some like really cool things with that in the final battle. And then finally, and I'm probably going to get some crap for this, but I thought that all three of the Spider-Women, their costumes were well designed. Like, I really liked the look of the costumes. But, they're only in like little like weird flash forward kind of stuff. Like, we never really see them. Except for like bits and pieces. Like, honestly, could we have I would rather they have done like a Spider-Women movie with these three girls and then just done like flashbacks to the events of Mandalorian. It doesn't matter because we are never going to see any of these characters again. Like I said, let me go back to this real quick. Yeah, 15.4 million and probably not going to do any better. It's probably going to tank even farther next week. We are never seeing any of these actors or any of these characters in the Sony. I'm going to be real here. I think after this, and if Craven doesn't perform, I'm going to be pretty certain that Sony's just going to implode this whole villains thing. Now, they might keep Venom around because Venom seems to be successful. And I think Venom is that great, turn your brain off movies. This is you can't even really turn your brain off because it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. And again, I hate saying that because, like, we've seen Sydney Sweeney be good before. We've seen Isabella Merced be good. We've seen Dakota Johnson. Adam Scott apparently doesn't realize what movie he's in because he's the only one that I see in the whole movie actually trying. Like, again, and it's a shame. It's a shame because I think with the interesting ideas present them, I think that they had a chance to make a really cool movie here. And they just failed. They completely failed on just about every even basic level of filmmaking that you could get to. And again, I have my unholy trinity in the worst movies I have personally ever, the worst wide release movies I have ever seen, which is Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Grown Ups 2, and Home on the Range. And I will tell you this. This movie is not that bad. This movie is not down to that level. It gets close, though, a few times. Like, there's a few times I found myself just, like, laughing uncontrollably because of how bad this is. And there was, at least, and I almost never, like, the only time I would ever, walk out of a movie is either time constraints, like I have to leave, or if they do something, like, impossibly stupid, like, I don't know, like, the Nazis weren't all that bad, which I hope that nobody ever makes that movie. But overall, like, again, and I have seen some people saying that the movie was not that bad, that they liked it. I've seen even people giving it, like, 4-star reviews. So, again, it's a very mileage may vary. But for me, this movie does not work in any regards. This movie does not work on any level, and it's a shame because I want every movie to be good. I want every movie to be good. Like, I see already people dancing in the street about how, Sony failed again. And a lot of that is because they have the agenda. Yes, I'm going to use that agenda word. They have that agenda of, if enough of these movies flop, Sony will just give up and sell back to Marvel. Which I've always said that I don't want. And it's not because I don't think Marvel could do a better job with them, because they probably could, at least with the live action properties. But we got to look at the realism here. If Sony gives back to Marvel, we lose the Insomniac games, which are some of the best Spider-Man storytelling in years. And we lose the Spider-Verse films, which, again, are so phenomenal that I don't want to let go of them. So, I just want Sony to make better live-action movies. That's kind of the long and short of it. So, I really, I'm so disappointed. Hopefully, when we come back next week, it's okay. It's okay. Mean Girls is still the best movie of the year, but it's going to stop next week. I'm almost certain that that's going to end next week. So let's move on. Let's get rid of the Madam Web. That is the last time we will ever talk about it on this podcast. Last time we will ever talk about that movie, because I'd rather talk about the movies that I enjoy. So let's move on and talk about what is coming this week. Well, there's not a whole lot. Drive Away Dolls. Drive Away Dolls does release this weekend, which I do have tickets to see that on Sunday. So I'm very excited about that. But of course, the big one is Final Fantasy VII Advent Children for me. I'm so excited to see that. And there's also Ordinary Angels releasing. There's no really big game releases that I can think of. But the big thing is that next week, we are 1 week away, guys. We are 1 week away, 10 days exactly, from the biggest movie of the year and the biggest game of the year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the PlayStation 5, and it's finally here, guys. We've been waiting for too long. Dune Part 2 is final, and the first reactions are out, and they're calling it like one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made. I might go buy that damn popcorn bucket. I just might. I'm very excited for it, and I cannot wait for both of those. I think next week I'm just going to lose my mind as we move from the end of February. So, with that all said, that will do it for the Everything Entertainment Podcast. Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. For all the news we cover Monday through Friday, we do at least one daily post on everythingentertainment.network. I'm also pretty regular on TikTok at Everything Entertainment. And as well, you can use the Q&A feature in Spotify, or you could send an email to everythingentertainmentblog8@gmail.com. And that will do it. Thank you so much for listening and hanging out with me as we just talk about movies, gaming, theme parks, all of that. And I will see you all next Monday. And this Friday, we will be back on YouTube for the Everything Entertainment Show. Thank you so much and have a great week.